there. So we move on here in this next segment with Delegate Michael Hornby. Welcome back as co-host.
Thank you, sir.
He's in the John Gilstrap seat, which, as Mr. Hornby is frequently telling us, is his seat. He owns all the seats. He owns all the chairs, all the desks, all the mics, everything.
Well, the bank technically owns all of it.
Well, you pay taxes on them.
I pay taxes.
Yeah. Also, Jefferson County Prosecuting Attorney Matthew Harvey.
Good morning.
You were waiting, weren't you?
He's been hammering you all day.
I know. It's
been
good.
brutal.
Good.
With no jurisdiction whatsoever.
I deserve it. I need a good humbling. We all do.
We all get it every now and then, too.
We sure do.
It's an even Steven thing, like Jerry Seinfeld once said. I'm up too much one day, I get brought down the next. I'm even Steven.
There you go.
David Valente is our guest in this segment of the program. Good morning, sir. Welcome back.
Good morning.
Good to have you back on the show.
Good to be back.
Give us a little background on your Iranian studies from your days in
I graduated with a degree in international affairs and foreign service from Kennesaw State University in 2005, and then a degree in diplomacy from Norwich University in 2008. Studied Iran for years, studied under John Turner, who actually spent a year in Iran during the reign of Mohammad Khatami, when American and Iranian relations kind of thawed at the end of the 90s and early 2000s. Was able to gain great insights of what goes on in Iran and how the average Iranian looks at the average American, and the difference between the government stance really in both countries and what the people think.
So how do the people think? What does the average Iranian think of America or Americans or the West?
The average Iranian thinks are very welcoming to Americans. And this is pretty much true around any Muslim culture, is that foreigners are treated with respect. It's the governments that create the problems, in that they weaponize the idea of, weaponize the great Satan. We're all familiar with the term the great Satan within Iranian culture. Politicians use that to excuse their foibles and to redirect, much as our politicians will use subterfuge and making enemies of other people to redirect focus from whatever the news of the day is, whether it's Trump versus Musk or the Ayatollahs. The economy in Iran is trash because it's been under economic sanctions for 40 plus years now. So essentially the governments are making it hard for the people to interact.
So when we see video or pictures of hundreds of thousands, tens of thousands of people in the streets of Iran burning American flags and chanting death to America, is that a government sanctioned event, or is that?
I mean, there are supporters of the Iranian government. To be clear, there are supporters of the style of government that they have, but that's achieved through brutal repression. But there are supporters, and people who want to show that they're supporters and want to gain some kind of favor with the government will get out in the streets and do the things, and people will do things to get out of work. So, if you're like, I want a day off, I'm going to go out in the streets, I'm going to burn an American flag. It does no skin off my back. So, the mile wide and paper thin support. If you look at it that way.
Let's talk about the current situation in the Middle East between Israel, Iran, and America, because we're not directly involved yet, but we are peripherally.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk about the main players here. So on one side, you've got Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. He is the supreme leader. And, for a lot of people, when we think Iran, we think of Ayatollah Khomeini, the original guy who overthrew the Shah and became the great Ayatollah and turned Iran into an Islamic republic. He was only in power for about a decade. Khamenei has been in power for almost 36 years now.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing to think that he has been in power far longer. He's the longest tenured leader in the Middle East right now. And I'm talking Greater Middle East. A lot of people kind of cut Iran off of the Middle East, but the Greater Middle East, he is the longest tenured leader.
Who was the guy that was about 10, 15 years ago that was always on TV?
Mahmoud Ahmadinejad.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, what happened to him?
He's still around. Actually, I follow him on Twitter. He's got a really interesting account. He is probably not as bombastic as he was as president of Iran. But yeah, he's still around. He had a falling out with Khamenei, and he is barred from running for president again. So because the Ayatollah has that power to block political candidates. So
were they a more approachable nation with say it again?
Ahmadinejad.
Yeah, with him in charge, or were they less?
No, there were less. I mean, Ahmadinejad was playing a role of being a blunt to the United States in the region. Because, remember at the time that he was serving, this is when the United States was in Iraq, they were in Afghanistan, they were surrounding Iran. So he was being he was trying to be the 10-foot tall leader to kind of blunt the United States influence in the region.
What's the role of president in Iran? Is it kind of like a president of Ireland or president of UK? Is it just a stakeholder, or is it
generally he's the leader of? It's kind of like the relationship. So the Ayatollah is the basically
king.
the term is Marja'i Taqlid. He's the one to be emulated. He is the lawgiver. The law. He can rule on Iranian jurisprudence. All of that stuff. Islam is much more integrated within politics than any other religion. Especially on the 12 or Shiite side, very much involved. So he is able to give laws. The president kind of runs the government. Like the day-to-day operations, and the current president is a guy named Masoud Pezeshkian. Their Iranian names kind of hard sometimes. So Masoud Pezeshkian is the current president. He's actually a reformer who served in the Khatami government in the early 2000s, late 90s, early 2000s. Served as Minister of Health. Because he's seen as a reformer and defeated the preferred candidate of the Ayatollah in the last election, he's been kind of sidelined, although he is a supporter of things like the axis of resistance. We can go into that if you want to. Essentially, the axis of resistance is the Iran supports groups that blunt U.S. and Israeli influence in the region. So Hamas, Hezbollah, the Houthis in Iran, among others. There are smaller groups that they also support, but those are the three big ones that I think we all know. That axis of resistance is a very big thing for Iran, that they use those actors to blunt U.S. and Israeli influence in the region. But he's a supporter of that, but he's really been sidelined. He's not really a big player in this whole thing. But the Ayatollah Ali Khamenei is they have been approached by the White House to do nuclear talks and things like that. Actually, I do have a question for you all. Who started the Iranian nuclear program?
I'm going to guess you're going to say the United States to help them fight Iraq.
No, actually, far earlier than that.
It was way earlier, yeah.
Yeah, 1957.
57.
The Atoms for Peace program by Dwight David Eisenhower started the program. So, the United States is actually, we've created the cudgel with which Iran is being beaten over right now.
But we were allies with them back then.
Oh, yes.
We were entwined with Iran back then.
We were.
Yeah.
And we can, I've come on here and we've talked about the why the governments don't play nice anymore, mainly from the time that Shah was there. Mm-hmm. And the influence of Savak, the secret police of the president, or of the Shah at that time. But yeah, so 1957 we start giving them reactors, and they built reactors at universities. In fact, there's one at University of Tehran. There's one in Esfahan, large cities. I don't know if y'all saw the interview with Tucker Carlson and Ted Cruz, where Tucker Carlson pretty much rakes Ted Cruz over the coals over why do you want to go to a war with Iran, and asking him basic questions about Iran that he really didn't know. Like, he asked him how many people are in Iran.
92 million.
92 million people.
I watched the clip.
Yeah, it was.
But I knew that before that.
Yeah. 92 million people in Iran. There are more people in Tehran than there are in New York City.
And I guess the point of asking those questions is if you're going to get involved, if America is going to get involved, and you break it, you buy it type of deal, then you're going to have to try to control a population of 92 million. It's very difficult.
Yeah, and let's take recent experience. We were in Afghanistan for 20 years. Within 3 days, all the changes that we made were obfuscated by the Taliban. They came right back. Iran is more than twice the size of Afghanistan. It has more than twice the number of people in that country.
Well, as you're reading it, are you reading into the international politics that the idea is to overtake Iran or just stop their nuclear program?
I think right now it's to stop the nuclear program. And I think
there's
there's
talk
lots
of
of layers.
regime change.
There is talk
that has
of
to come from within.
It has to.
It cannot come from the United States or Israel.
So we've done regime change in the Middle East several times. Afghanistan, Iraq, and we even Egypt to an extent. It doesn't work because we can't control who takes over, and where Iraq is one thing, and even Yemen or another country is one thing. Iran does have nuclear capabilities. Not they haven't built a nuclear weapon yet, but they do have nuclear capabilities. So there is a new thing, a new level of the onion here that you have to consider when you're talking about regime change in Iran. I don't know if they get to a point where Vladimir Putin offers the Ayatollah refuge in Moscow, and you can be roommates with Bashar al-Assad, and they're going to have like a Russian version of bosom buddies. I don't know, but at this point, regime change is probably a bad idea because we don't really there's not really a cohesive opposition in Iran to take its place. And again, we don't know what that opposition will look like, whether it will be, are we just swapping out one dictator for another, or that has a slightly friendly face, as I think we're seeing in Syria at this point. But
let me ask you this question. I asked this of Aram Hassami yesterday. Unfortunately, his phone connection wasn't the greatest yesterday. But in regards to if this escalates, who comes to Iran's defense? Putin is the only name that's really been offered, and he's preoccupied. So where does that leave the rest of the Middle East in a situation like this?
Well, I mean, the rest of the Middle East are not really fans of Iran to begin with. I mean, the Saudis have long held enmity towards Iran because they both want to be the regional hegemons. So Saudi wouldn't step in. None of the Gulf states would step in, except for maybe the Houthis in Yemen, and they've got their own problems. Really, the Iranians would be on their own. Again, it would go into insurgency, and it would if we put boots on the ground, or Israel puts boots on the ground, which I doubt.
It's not an option.
Yeah, it's going to be a bloody, long, drawn out insurgency, just as Iraq was, just as Afghanistan was.
So, other than pride and a few other factors, what would stop Iran from giving up their nuclear capabilities, going back to just being the thorn in the side that they are? Without nukes.
I mean, the nukes are kind of are really. It's like when we went to war with Iraq. Iraq would never disclose whether or not they had chemical weapons. They would deny it, but they weren't kind of shifty about it. It was kind of that blunt, that kind of an insurance card that says, you won't invade me because you don't know if I've got chemical weapons. Now we called their bluff. Iran is a different thing because we know they have nuclear capabilities to an extent. They have nuclear reactors. this is another complicating factor because last night the Israelis attacked the Iraq I-40 heavy water reactor. That probably says that they're not going to want to put boots on the ground. You don't want to put boots on the ground of a place that is flowing with radiation.
So is that a power plant?
Yeah, it's a power plant. There's been lots of discussion about the Iraq power plant that, at one point they were supposed to decommission it.
How many do they have?
They've got probably 8 or 9 facilities. There's 2 main
Power.
At power facilities, I think they've got 3 or 4, okay. And they've got 3 research reactors, and then there are 2 enrichment sites that are the big focus of a lot of things. There's the Natanz nuclear enrichment site, and then there's the Fordow nuclear site, the enrichment. That's the one that's built into the mountain. That's the one that the Israelis can't get at. I think to the extent that if the United States gets involved in Iran, it's to either let Israel have one of the Moabs or to deploy Moab themselves.
That's the bunker busters.
That's the mother of all bombs, the JDAMs, the big ones.
So what's the strategy with hitting a nuclear power plant? Is that to, obviously with the environmental destruction, but does it force the Iranians to focus on the containment of that, and they're taking up resources?
It sets them back 30 years.
It's
or starve them out. It's cruelty.
Part of it's cruelty. Let's talk Esfahan. Esfahan is south. I have it here. South of Qom. No, I'm sorry. Natanz is south of Qom, which is a city of 1.2 million, 2 million people. Fordow is north of Esfahan, which is a city of 2.2 million people. The displacement from those alone, if they attack the research reactor at the University of Tehran, a city of over 8 million people, the displacement of those people alone to get out of the way of nuclear radiation is going to be massive. It'll be the biggest humanitarian disaster in the history of man.
So if you bombed a nuclear facility like that, there would be fallout. Is that
you're using nuclear materials.
Even if it's underneath the ground?
There'll probably be some mitigating factors from them being underground. Natanz is not as underground as Fordow, right. But still, it's getting it. When you blow something up, it projects stuff into the atmosphere. That's getting into the atmosphere. It's going to go around. You bomb a nuclear facility with a reactor. That reactor goes into meltdown, and there's no control to the.
Now we have Chernobyl. Right?
Yeah, essentially Chernobyl. The big concern in Ukraine was the nuclear facility that they've got there, that the Zaporizhia facility that has had active shelling in the area. This would be a major world event if that were to happen. If we see a breach of a nuclear reactor.
So, I'm sorry, David. So I keep hearing, and this is all just concerning, this issue, and I don't think anybody's not concerned about it. But it's talking about World War III. Mm-hmm. How is this World War III if no one is coming to Iran's defense?
It's not World War III in the sense that everyone's going to start launching nukes. That not in that sense. What it could do, and our focus right now, we've got focus in Ukraine, we've got focus on what's going on in Iran. Every time our focus gets diverted, China's looking across the straits, and they see Taiwan sitting there, and America's focus is divided. And Russia is looking to escalate in Ukraine, and every time we take our eyes off those balls, the chance of escalation increases.
I think when you think of Russia, it's that old Kremlin, Vladimir Putin thing. He just wanted his, because Ukraine used to be part of Russia, USSR.
Yeah, he wants to bring the band back together.
When I look at China and Taiwan, I don't see that as much. what's the benefit for China to take Taiwan? There is no real
I mean,
benefit.
there really is no benefit, but other than Chinese pride and
China's already purchasing most of the globe. If you look at South America, Brazil, you look at the Caribbean, their economy is already booming with what they're doing now. They've made a focus on, we're going to invest in third world countries, developing countries. We're going to use their resources, and we're going to get a
extract the
foothold.
resources and bring them home. Yep.
And it's working for them. So I don't see. I know everybody talks about China. I think it's our fault for depending on them so much.
Yeah, other than Taiwan being the world's largest producer of computer chips, I think that's the big thing.
But it doesn't have to be.
China could outstrip them if they want to.
Right.
It's getting access to the resources, what they're doing with their Belt and Road.
Hey, let's go back to
initiatives.
Iran to close this segment down, David. I got 30 seconds.
Yeah.
What does the conclusion and when does it happen?
Well, I mean, look at things. The Russians, their influence in this thing. I've talked about. I think the Russians were behind October 7th, and I think this is part of the subterfuge of the wars going on that Iran or Israel is attacking Iran as a proxy to what happened with October 7th in Russia.
Does Iran back down, yes or no?
Eventually, they'll find a way for saving face.
We're back with the final minute right after this. We thank our producer, the sports doctor, Colin McLaughlin. You can check out the sports mix between noon and 1 today, Colin and Dylan. Thanks to our guest, David Valente, in this segment as well. David, thank you.
Thank you.
Good to see you again.
Yeah, good to see you.
And our co-host, Jefferson County Prosecuting Attorney Matthew Harvey with the white-on-white tie. Look, I like that, man. That is sharp.
Thank you. I hope everybody at home can see it, because last time I talked about how I want to always make be
Good
respectful,
impression.
yes, to the audience and wear a tie. And then I was like, I don't think I can see it.
White-on-white, I like it. Mr. Hornby, thank you.
Thank you, Rob. Appreciate it.
To Roger Hanshaw as well, and Melissa and Jackie. Dave Ramsey Show is next. This is Talk Radio, WRNR Martinsburg and TV10. We'll talk to you again in 22. Short hour.